Hello and welcome to Archvelder's Hacks with Archvelder and his amazing hacks. In this video we'll be exploring the advanced and overpowered abilities of the Mage. Updated for patch 8.15. Mages are one of the best all-round classes for exploitation, with a number of broken abilities virtually designed for manipulating the game world. The Mage is probably the most broken class in Warcraft. Twice I have found mage-only exploits where I could literally one-shot every boss in the game. One of the primary game-breaking abilities of the Mage is Blink. Blink is a teleport ability that has never worked seamlessly due to its fundamental design. For example, you can blink into this area to the left of the Horde base here, and then you can use Slowfall to get down into the area below the water. Even though you're below the water, the game treats your character as if you were swimming. And from this position you can launch surprise attacks against the enemy, whilst being able to easily get out of range if necessary. Players from both teams can take the flag down here if they choose. You'll need some kind of water breathing ability to survive indefinitely. Now, over the years, Blizzard have attempted to prevent this type of map glitching. They haven't got everything, of course. There are a lot of places where you can still blink through the terrain. But in the process of trying to fix it, they unintentionally created another class of exploit. See this location in Battle For Azeroth, to the right of the water wheel. This Stonewall is actually hollow and you can cast straight through it. It's a game-breaking location which can often win your team a match because it is so difficult to work out where the casts are coming from. But that's not the exploit here. If you blink through the stone wall, you'll find yourself disconnected and then you'll be teleported to your faction's main base. I'm Alliance here, so I'm going to be sent back to the lighthouse. Now, this is game breaking for two reasons. First, if I'm discovered at this location and attacked, I can get out of combat easily just by blinking. Alternatively, if this base is secured but the enemy team attack the lighthouse, then I can get back almost instantly to the lighthouse. Normally it takes at least 30 seconds or so to move between the bases. And I'm just going to show you how it works here. As you can see, I've been discovered, I'm being attacked, my health is going down, and then I blink forward, get disconnected, log back in, and then you'll find you'll be able to instantly resurrect at the lighthouse. Another normally inaccessible location that you can use Blink to escape into is here in the mines in the Battle For Azeroth again. You have to use Blink at exactly the right spot here or it won't work. This mine is a cut and paste job from the Azeroth starter zone. Now the warrior charges in after me here, and if you think I'm gonna die, that was precisely what I wanted the warrior to think. You see, he can charge in here after me, but without a target he can't get back out, which means he's stuck here for the rest of the game, and his team are a man down. Here outside the entrance to Sethek Halls in Orkindune, I've always been curious what lies behind the instance portal. Now, Blink allows you to bypass the portal, but then you find an invisible wall blocking further progress. Two mages can bypass this invisible wall by dueling each other and using Polymorph and Dragon's Breath, which temporarily turns the enemy into an NPC for coding purposes. And you can see there's literally nothing behind this wall, it's all smoke and mirrors as my character DCs. The Arcane Mage's displacement ability, especially when talented with Rewind Time, adds another element to Blink, which gives it much the same game-breaking power as the Warlock's Demonic Circle or Monk's Transference. You can use it to bypass mechanical procedures that take place in-game, such as this moving gate in Isle of Conquest. Blink under the gate when it opens, and then use displacement to port inside it when it comes down. Now you have access to an otherwise inaccessible area, and you can use it to defuse bombs without interruption, or launch attacks from within. Because you can use displacement again to return inside the forbidden area, you are effectively invincible. As with every other exploit in this video, this is not just about this specific exploit, fun as it is. It's showing you what to look for. Obviously, there are limitations on the type of things I can show you without them getting fixed, as Blizzard watch this channel too. In this video, as in most of my videos, I've left some hints as to game-breaking plays I couldn't discuss publicly. For those of you who don't want to study the video too closely, you may want to consider joining my Patreon, which I'll give a link to below in the description. The Mage Illusion spell is intended to be a minor cosmetic spell and requires the mystical Tomb of Illusion, which can be purchased from Endora Moorhead in Old Dalaran. And as I'm showing you here, Illusion can do some amazing things. It's one of a number of ways of copying other people's appearances and disguises in-game, but one that Blizzard often forget about when it comes to nerfing the more interesting forms that you can copy, as for example with these Spirit Healer forms. When you copy the Spirit Healer appearance, enemies often assume that you're actually dead. It often takes them some time to figure out that you're still alive and can still be attacked. The disguise is so massive that it actually penetrates and no-clips through a lot of scenery, especially when combined with any kind of size item or effect. Terrain exploits allow the mage to gain access to elevated areas where they cannot be harmed or cannot easily be harmed by melee attacks. The mage ability Slowfall is especially useful in this regard. For example, take the Goblin Mine in Deepwind Gorge. If you jump with just the right velocity, you can get on top of this light here. In addition to being in close proximity to the flag, it makes it very difficult for melee to target you. You can get on top of the light without Slowfall, but it makes it a much larger target. The object here is not to be able to kill everyone, or even necessarily to stay alive. It's solely to stay alive long enough to prevent the enemy team capping the flag before help turns up. And you'll find that makes a significant difference to your win percentage as a player. The Goblin Glider is also very useful to the mage when practicing terrain exploits. Here in Battle for Azeroth again, you can get well above melee range on this wooden construction directly over the flag. Terrain exploits don't make you invincible. If enough ranged players gather together, they will be able to kill you, and rogues can shadow step up to you. Death Knights can grip you down, though to some extent you can deal with that strategy with displacement if you play Arcane. But to do that, the enemy team has to focus you harder than they would normally, and that benefits the rest of your team. If they don't target you, then you will have an extraordinary amount of control over the game. Generally speaking, your team will win, and you'll usually be doing top DPS, even with quite banal gear. Here in Temple of Kotomogu, there's a location which probably does not even constitute a terrain exploit, as no special tricks are required to get you on top of this banister here. That said, it does provide you a significant measure of protection from melee attacks. This is a rare area of exploitation where Blizzard have actually laid down their specific policy on what constitutes a terrain exploit. And their explanation is that if you use a strategy which is not available to all players to gain access to an elevated area, that constitutes an exploit. Methods can sometimes be used together to make terrain exploits easier, as when jumping from the top of this cliff onto this crane next to the mines in Arathi Basin. The player uses Slowfall to hover over the crane, since judging the rate of descent isn't trivial. You can just use Blink when above the crane to make certain of hitting the target. Now you're a country mile away from melee range in this position. Fire mages have an extraordinary advantage here because the flag is more than 40 yards away, which puts it out of the range of most abilities. But the fire mage's flame cannon talent will give them an extra 15 yards, allowing them to more than comfortably cover the area. Eye of the Storm offers an amazing opportunity for the mage. If you just jump onto this rock, no special abilities are needed. You have total control over the flag area. This is one of my favourite locations. It's just delightful how much damage you can do here. Aside from just jumping onto the top of the pinnacle here, if you're reasonably skilled with a Goblin glider, you can access it directly from the starting area as you jump off. Any specialisation will work very well here, however fire excels, especially with the flame patch and flame cannon talents, as your ignites spread through the enemy team. Mount plus Slowfall will allow you to get on top of the Draenei ruins here and make this base very difficult for the enemy to take. This is much more of a location for mages who prefer single targeting. Now, there's a weird item fire mages only can use to extend the range of Fire Blast, and that's sold here in Shadrath. And the item is the Evoker's Silk Handguards, and it's one of a rare number of legacy items which still has an intact effect. The loss of DPS from using this item is not trivial, so make sure you understand how Flame Cannon works and where exactly the range limits of your spells and abilities are. Here in Zuldrak in Northrend, we have one of many interesting opportunities for the mage ability Spell Steal. Spell Steal is verifiably the most broken ability in the entire game. It has been the case precisely twice in the last 5 years that I've discovered methods to do infinite damage and one-shot any boss in the game, and both times it was through the use of Spell Steal. Most abilities which are game-breaking and can be spell stolen are closely guarded secrets among the exploit community, but here's one I will reveal publicly. Here in Zuldrak, these Altar Warden mobs have a buff called Whirling Winds, and this increases movement speed by 25% and cast speed by 10%. Crucially, this stacks and also survives a zone teleport. These are two critical ingredients of any useful spell steal. Despite their short duration, stackable spell steal buffs can be used to do game-breaking passes on raid bosses. Even more powerful buffs exist in the game. For example, the Fiery Intellect buff that can sometimes be found on Blood Elf mob NPCs, such as here in Crystal Song Forest at Sunreaver's command. The buff increases damage from fire spells by over 300%. For a short period last year, you could stack these buffs and take them anywhere, allowing players to one-shot mythic bosses. Blizzard fixed the buff so that it no longer stacks, nor does it zone, but the scaling is still messed up, and you can still use the buff when you find it to level very quickly through the relevant areas. Mages have some abilities which benefit from the legacy damage buff in low-level zones. For example, the arcane mage talent Touch of the Magi creates a ticking time bomb which explodes onto secondary targets, and as you can see here, when you target a low-level main target but the Touch of the Magi explosion hits a high-level target, in this case a raining dummy, its damage is very high due to the secondary attack not being scaled down. Mage Polymorph has a secondary use I didn't mention earlier. It is fantastic for trolling. Areas like this one at the top of Wyrmrest Temple are protected by guards, but for some reason Polymorph does not trigger them into action. It is very easy to provoke players into attacking you, and of course that does trigger the guards. If you are a fire mage, be careful not to use Blazing Barrier here, as that counts as an attack and will also trigger the guards. The following exploit is really weird and should only be attempted by very advanced mages. Buy a huge quantity of pinch whistle nitro fuel and also purchase the pet Pierre. Now, when you have Pierre out and you drink the nitro fuel, you will set fire to yourself and your health will go down very fast, to the extent that it will eventually trigger your cauterize ability. Now that gives you 6 seconds of extreme speed. Now, if you combine this with lag 7, that can be up to 14 seconds before you disconnect. And this is really useful for running dungeons fast. It's kind of a crazy way to get a speed boost, but it does make for much faster gold farming sessions. You can also use it to run flags in battlegrounds, but I would only use it against truly horrible opposition that aren't paying attention. The ability Flame Strike with the talent Flame Patch is one of only a few player abilities which allow you to do continuous damage to a targeted area. Now this is really important for tagging a mob quickly, because the ticking damage means that you don't have to time an attack with the appearance of a spawning mob perfectly to get in the first hit. Flame Patch is also great for farming fast or instantly respawning mobs, since the continuous ticks of Flame Strike can damage multiple spawns of the same mobs. A good example of this is the sprites area of the Timeless Isle, where you get a minute after activating the purple crystal to kill as many sprites as possible, in the hope of getting a pet and charms for bonus rolls from lucrative Mr. Pandaria gold farms. Flame Patch allows you to start killing sprites in a wide radius from the nanosecond that you charge the crystal up. There's a valuable bonus tip here. The White Tiger is very agile. The Fire Mage's Ignite damage also benefits from scaling. As you can see, the raw ignites from these low-level target dummies kill the guard NPCs in Orgrimmar, and also this Death Knight they got in the way. If you spell steal a Blazing Barrier from a higher level mage, then the barrier will have the same hit points as it would on the mage who cast it. So this makes the mage effectively invulnerable against level appropriate content. Moreover, if you're in the same world zone or instance as the high level mage, your Blazing Barrier will deal high level damage, which will kill any level appropriate mob that attacks you. Finally, it's worth mentioning that if you fall from a great height, Blink will instantly break your fall. This is known to literally everyone who has ever played a mage in World of Warcraft, and for that reason there is almost certainly a 10-minute Vaulty video about it. So there's the video. If you liked it, why not subscribe? There are severe limitations to what I can show you in a public video, as I said, as Blizzard watch these videos too. So if you want to know more, you may wish to consider joining my Patreon. Thanks for watching. This has been Archfelder.